This is Bryce Burge, host of Your Soccer Passport. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey, this is Lee.
And this is Chelsea.
And we are the host of your new favorite sales podcast, See Jane Sell.
Join us every Thursday for a new episode where we will tackle the realistic world of sales and maybe teach you a thing or two along the way.
You can subscribe to See Jane Sell on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Spotify. Thanks, and enjoy the following podcast on Public House Media.
Welcome to Let Me Be Forward. I am your host, Baxter Colburn. Thanks for joining for this first episode of a brand new show presented by Public House Media here for you today. Oh my goodness, this is an exciting moment. There is just so much excitement budding around the club Forward Madison FC, and I could not be more thrilled to be on this season-long journey with each and every one of you that is listening in. This show is going to be done from the perspective of someone that I wouldn't call myself a fan of Forward Madison because I do follow the club, but at the same time, I am going to be probably a little bit more critical. I've spent the last 6 years working in the soccer and just sports broadcasting industry, and I've picked up this critical eye. I played soccer for 18 years, still play it from time to time, and it's something that I'm going to take to every episode when I come to you, and this is the show where we are going to just give it to you as absolutely real and as transparent as you possibly can. That's why we called the show Let Me Be Forward, for goodness sakes. You didn't think I was going to sit here for 40 minutes or 20 minutes or however the heck long every episode goes. It'll be under an hour every episode, I promise. But we are going to be succinct, we are going to be professional, but we're going to have fun. Today's episode is an introduction episode. We have two fantastic interviews for you. Later on in the show, we are going to be joined by the first ever signing from Forward Madison, number 7. He's an attacker. Don Smart is going to be here a little bit later on in the program. I have a phenomenal conversation with him, learning about his journey coming from Indy 11, spending 4 seasons there, being a staple player for that club, and now coming to Forward Madison. The 31-year-old Jamaican is a treat to talk to and might even find himself playing a couple of unique positions this season. But we'll get to that interview a little bit later on in the program. Our first interview, though, is going to be coming up in just a moment after we do a couple of housekeeping things. It's the managing director of Forward Madison. It's Peter Wilt, and he is a good friend of mine and someone that has been integral in making this podcast happen. So we're going to talk to Peter and Don in just a little bit. Before we do that, though, I want to make a couple of quick housekeeping things for you. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, really anywhere that you find your podcast. You are going to be able to subscribe and listen to Let Me Be Forward on a weekly basis. The show comes out every single Wednesday from now until the final whistle of the Forward Madison 2019 campaign, whether that is at the end of the regular season, at the first round of the semifinals and the playoffs, or when they are lifting the trophy at the end of the USL League One season. Who knows? But we're going to be on a journey all season long. I am aided in my voyage on this season by an up-and-coming sports broadcaster in the Madison market. Her name is Madeline Cum, and she joins us now to chat briefly, to give a little bit of backstory. Maddie is going to be down in the Madison area as our footprint, as our person keeping the pulse on what is going on inside of Madison. She's going to be doing interviews with players, and she is phenomenally just gifted in what she does, an incredible talent, and I'm thrilled that she's joining us on the show right now. Maddie, how are you today?
Hi, Baxter. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you joining the show. I'm really excited for this opportunity, Maddie, because this is something that I think fans are really going to get a really unique behind-the-scenes look, because it's one thing to do a show from my position where a lot of these interviews are going to be done remotely, but it's another thing to have someone like yourself who's going to be meeting players and coaches and being at the games and forming those relationships with the players. And I want to get your thoughts about what it means to be a part of a project like this with Let Me Be Forward.
Right, thanks. And I'm really excited, to share that insight with not only you, but the fans and everyone who is listening to our podcast. I moved to Madison a few months ago. I actually graduated from UW La Crosse last May with a degree in broadcasting and digital media. And I'm really excited to have those exclusive interviews on the field during practice with coaches, players, even fans, and just show everybody why Forward Madison is so great.
I think a big thing that we want to make sure that we communicate to folks is the fact that we are not going to be biased towards Forward Madison, and it's something that we want to be, honest about. We're going to critique folks as we go throughout the weeks, of course, but at the same time, like you mentioned, we are trying to show the true lights and the true colors of what's going on with Forward Madison. But I have to ask, from your perspective, you're in the city, you see what's going on. What is the buzz of Forward Madison around Madison, as it were?
Right. I think Madison in general is a great sports community. Everybody who is here, I think, is kind of a diehard sports fan, and I think bringing soccer here is only going to elevate that. I do hear people talking about Forward Madison, and everything that I've heard is only positive, and I'm sure that momentum will, be upkept moving forward. When Forward Madison, it really is a team that is for the people, by the people. When that comes with, choosing the name, even expanding the stadium, I think that community involvement is only really going to heighten the stakes and make people even more enthusiastic about pro soccer coming here.
When you talk about the just camaraderie that comes with professional sports, the atmosphere, I think, in a soccer stadium is something that is so unique to any other professional sport, even just down to the high school level or the rec level. There's something different about being inside a soccer stadium with the fans cheering and, the music and the drums and just everything that goes into it. But when you look at just the pure breakdown of what's going on with Forward Madison, I think you can't help but smile and say, this club's going to be something special. And I know you've mentioned that many times in our conversations that, this energy is going to be incredible. And the receptiveness, not only citywide, but statewide and even nationally, has been pretty incredible to this point so far.
Right. I 100% agree. And I think, too, with a brand new team like Forward Madison, there is that unpredictability element involved. Sports are great in the sense where miracles can happen every day. Underdogs can rise up. But with a brand new team, we really don't know what's going to happen. And I think that everybody will be hanging on to every single minute of these games because we want to build up that credibility and we want to see what is going to happen with this brand new season.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, the top 4 teams this season make the playoffs, a single game elimination, and semifinals and right to the championship. Forward Madison hoping to be one of those 4 teams when the dust settles. The home opener doesn't happen for a little over a month, but there's already been a lot of excitement budding about it. What are you most looking forward to when you get to walk into the stadium for the first time for that home opener on April 27th, Maddie?
I have to say I'm excited to go to the home opener and walk in and feel that electricity that is in the soccer stadium. And like you said, it might even be exclusive to soccer, but also go to those practices beforehand and see the beginning stages, what everyone has been working very hard towards. People see the games, but they don't necessarily see the work that's put in behind the scenes. And that's what I want to shed the light on as I do those interviews and all over our social media as well.
When you talk about doing those interviews, everyone's got their own style. Some folks like to do, more serious. Some like to do goofy. What are you hoping to showcase to the fans based on your interview style? What do you hope to let people see based on the way that you do your interviews?
Right. I think first and foremost, information is important, especially with a brand new team. However, getting to know the players individually really gets people to really be on their side. When people see people's personalities, they can connect with them. When they hear their stories, those are things that resonate with people, and that's what they're going to remember first and foremost. Before they even start playing the game, they're going to remember, this person said this story, or I really agreed with them when they said this. And that's what builds up fandom as well.
You're absolutely correct about that. She's Maddie Cum. She's going to be our Madison correspondent for this upcoming season of USL League One Soccer for Forward Madison. You can find her on Twitter at Maddie Cum. Maddie, it's going to be a lot of fun this season, and I look forward to having you highly invested in what we're doing here at Let Me Be Forward and for just growing what soccer is not only in Madison, but also across the country. So, and in advance, thank you for the work you're going to put into the show to this season.
Thanks, Baxter. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. We're going to take a fast break. When we come back, we're going to dive right into our first interview of the week. The managing director of Forward Madison, Peter Wilt, will join me to chat about this upcoming season, his expectations, and just how the soccer landscape in Wisconsin continues to change. And are we more divided or more unified? And will Forward Madison have a greater impact than many think? We'll talk about that when we come back in just a moment. You're listening to Let Me Be Forward. Welcome back to Let Me Be Forward. I'm Baxter Colburn, your host. We are speaking now with the managing director of Forward Madison, Peter Wilt, a gentleman that I've had the opportunity to interview many times throughout my career. And let's be honest, there's always just a quick wit about Peter that has me coming back for more conversations. And I'm thrilled that he joins us here on the first episode of Let Me Be Forward. A very good day to you, Peter. How are you today, sir?
Terrific. Thanks, Baxter. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you hosting this podcast. I think it's going to be a really fun show and also a good way, I think, for fans to kind of get an inside look or an advanced look of things going on, all things forward.
I agree. I completely agree. And I'm grateful for the opportunity also. I think this is going to be an experience that a lot of fans are going to really just want to dig into each week. And even fans not of the team, but just of soccer as a whole. So I'm hopeful that we do a good job of capturing that on a weekly basis for folks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we want the show to be more than just forward, but certainly a view of the soccer world through the eyes of Forward Madison or through the eyes of Wisconsin. So obviously there'll be an emphasis on Forward Madison, but there'll be other things, especially soccer throughout the state. I think that's one thing we'd love to emphasize, and also kind of get the views and ideas of the fans, soccer fans throughout Wisconsin.
I completely agree with you on that one. So, Peter, I gotta ask you right off the bat, because this is something that we have been asking on Twitter already on the Let Me Be Forward page, is where do you, when you look at the club, you look at the coaching staff, you've seen them through preseason already, realistically, where do you think this club is going to finish off this season? The question that we've been asking on Twitter is top three, middle table, or bottom three. And I know obviously that it's still very early and there hasn't even been an official game played yet as far as, a league game, but based off the talent that you guys have recruited, based on everything that's going on right now, if you had to give me a way too early bold prediction, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I want to go right for the end in the first show. And I have the same curiosity I think every fan has, especially to start up a brand new team. It's human nature to wonder, what are we going to see, and how is it going to be relative to the other teams in the league? I guess my short answer, and it's already too late for that, would be I expect this team to be a playoff team. And that means one of the top four in USL League One. But there's a lot of things, a lot of variables in play, right?
Absolutely.
How this individual collection of talent molds together. How the other teams in the league compare. And I think, one of the most interesting dynamics is going to be the integration of the Minnesota players. Some really talented players coming that need minutes and games and training to develop to their full potential. And those players in particular have their eyes on the prize, which is to get back to Minnesota and Major League Soccer. But certainly, most of our roster, hopefully, wants the same thing. They want to advance their careers and get to the highest level possible. But we've built this team, Daryl and I and Neil and the whole technical staff, to be a good balance of youth and experience, players from all over the world, as well as Wisconsin and throughout the United States, with the idea to build a team that can compete for a championship. This isn't a traditional minor league team where you're just looking to develop players for the major leagues. This is a team that we intend to build a championship roster with. So I'd be disappointed. They always say under promise, over deliver. So maybe I should predict we'll finish in last place, and that way, whatever we come up with will be above that. But realistically, we expect this team to make the playoffs, and it's a single game knockout, semifinals and finals. So I'm going to say anything can happen once you're there, but actually I think only two things can happen. You can win or lose.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think that kind of bounces off the fact also of when you talk about leading into, how this team is going to finish. Do you feel like there's more pressure for the club to succeed on the field right away just because of everything that you've done at a high level off the field with, the marketing and the integration of using the Flock as a supporters team, and just it really kind of seems that the club hasn't made a wrong move off the field yet because of all the national and international recognition that you're getting?
I don't know if it's pressure as much as I'd like to say it's motivation. Motivation, inspiration. Certainly a high bar has been set, and we want to continue that on the field because this isn't, again, just a minor league team where you only want to deliver in the stands and, in the box office and the bottom line. You want to lift a trophy. So there's, I don't want to use your word pressure. I think there's more motivation and a goal and a realistic goal to do that. But, yeah, we want to succeed and exceed expectations at every level, and that includes on the field.
What team or teams are you most excited about to play this season as a club, or some away venues that you're excited to travel to?
Yeah, I think Chattanooga and Lansing. Those two in particular. Chattanooga's built a really good roster. My old coach, Tim Hankinson, down there has called in a couple of our former players from Indy, Colin Falvey and Eamon Zayed, and brought in a number of other good internationals like Steve Beatty and others. They're going to have a really good roster. And then the same in Lansing. Lansing signed some very good players. Their organization is top-notch, and their fan base, because of proximity, I think, to Madison, is our closest rival, and because of social media, has developed a pretty good friendly rivalry with Forward Madison already. So those two are at the top of the list.
Where do you fall on the debate of MLS teams putting out B teams like Toronto and Orlando City into this division? I've seen backlash on Twitter because there's rumors that Minnesota United might be doing that in the next couple of years, and I've seen some fans be like, "Oh, it's great to see like the second team, as it were." But where do you fit into that conversation?
Well, I think it's good to have it. I think MLS teams that are able and willing to support a full reserve team should do so, and having it in USL League One, I think, is a natural landing place for them. Certainly for now and in the near future, I would anticipate that the growth of League One, which we think will be rather rapid, to somewhat mirror the growth of USL Championship. I think part of that growth of USL League One will include more and more MLS B teams. As long as there's also obviously a mainly a healthy mix of independent teams or teams like Forward Madison that are independent but supplement with MLS loan players, I think that's good and make good competition.
One of the last things I want to ask you about, and this is more about the state of Wisconsin as a whole, it's been no surprise for anyone that's followed along that the soccer landscape in Wisconsin has been divided for many years, even as recent just up as the last couple of years. Do you feel like Forward Madison is going to help bridge the gap and potentially unify the state from all of this divide that we've seen about, I think I've got my own way I can do this, and I've got my own way I think I can do this?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think it provides, certainly at this point, the highest level of soccer in the state. It's fully professional and gives fans something to unite behind and support. I think the competitive nature of this sport is such that that's always going to be manifested in some, I'll say division, but really what you're hoping for is competition and hopefully keeping that on the field. And I'd like to think Forward Madison will do well whenever we get a chance to play other Wisconsin teams. And that'll be fun for the fans. Soccer is maybe the most tribal of all sports. So you want people to get passionate and supportive of their own team. If it's Forward Madison, that's great. If it's another team in the state, that's great too. Just have a passion for your own local team. Even if it's not a local team, everyone has their own reasons for supporting a team. In other leagues, I support Fulham. I support the Chicago Fire. I support Indy 11, and I've got different reasons, and everyone has their own reasons. And I don't think that's necessarily divisive. It shouldn't be. It should be something that you're proud of, and that can extend to amateur ranks as well. This state has some amazing amateur clubs that are with historic roots that, frankly, Forward Madison has been built on the shoulders of clubs like the Madison 56ers, Milwaukee Bavarians, Croatian Eagles, some of these great clubs. And more recent years, the Milwaukee Torrent, Milwaukee Wave, a team I'm proud to have been associated with, is actually the oldest professional ongoing soccer team in the United States. And they're all in Wisconsin, and they all have their own fan bases. And we don't want that to go away. I don't think we want every single person in Wisconsin abandoning their prior loyalties in exchange for Forward Madison. But it would be nice if they added Forward Madison to their number of teams that do support.
And I completely agree with you on that one. And I think that that's something that we've continued to see, and I think that Forward Madison has the opportunity to do that. And it'll be interesting as the inaugural season kicks off on April 6th against the Chattanooga Red Wolves, what exactly the dust will settle and how the fans will, as it were, flock to Forward Madison, or will they be deterred? We never know. But we are grateful for your time today, Peter, and all eyes on April 6th right now on that first road trip over to Chattanooga. I appreciate the time, Peter, and we look forward to having you back on the show again in the future, sir.
Thank you very much, Baxter. All my best.
There goes Peter Wilt from Forward Madison. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we've got more exciting action for you. We're going to dive into some of the recent happenings for Minnesota United in the Loon Report. Back with more on Let Me Be Forward after this. Time now for a segment that we are going to be doing every week called the Loon Report. As many folks know, there is a partnership between Forward Madison FC and MLS club Minnesota United. We're going to do a quick recap and just check in of what's going on with Minnesota United every week, just to see what they're up to, and of course, just a little tip of the cap to the team that is supplying a couple of loanee players for us for the season. For those that are fans of Minnesota United, you know that there was a 3-2 defeat this last week at the hands of the LA Galaxy. The Galaxy led 2-0 at halftime, and then finally in the 75th minute, Minnesota United did strike, but then Sebastian Legit in the 81st minute sealed the game with another goal. You did see a goal from Angelo Rodriguez in the 87th minute for Minnesota United, but this was a game that was the Galaxy's pretty much from the get-go, even though United did score 2 goals. This is a game for Minnesota United that it's hard to know how good this club can be, because we've seen them dominate clubs in the past and we've seen them struggle. The next game for Minnesota United is going to be at the New England Revolution on Saturday, March 30th. The Revolution coming off of a 3-2 controversial loss to Toronto FC due to a strange and unique VAR offsides call that Josie Altidore was able to capitalize on and put away the winning goal for Toronto FC. Minnesota United also, I've seen some speculation swarming around the fact that they are going to be putting together a Minnesota United 2 or Minnesota United B team. I think that's fascinating because this is going to allow for Minnesota United to continue to keep and develop their academy, continue to sign younger players. What that means for the likes of the partnership with Forward Madison, that we don't know yet. Of course, this is still very much in the early stages, but this is a rumor that I've seen swirling around Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I'm very curious to know if this is going to take place. If you think that it's a good idea that MLS clubs do these second teams or B teams, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Twitter at Baxter Colburn. That's the best way to communicate with me personally. And of course, the show is at Let Me Be Forward. That's the quick touch on of the Loon Report this week. We'll have more for you next week as they take on the New England Revolution, as I mentioned, on Saturday, March 30th.
It's going down for real.
Joining Let Me Be Forward for the very first time, it is an absolute honor to welcome attacker wearing number 7, Don Smart, to the program. Don, welcome, sir. How are you today?
I'm all right. Thank you for having me this week.
Absolutely, Don. It is an absolute pleasure. I got to ask you right out of the gate, Don, what was your reaction when you found out that Forward Madison wanted to sign you, but on top of that, as their very first player?
To be honest with you, I got a call when I was actually in California from the GM, Peter. And actually, he called me on, and I know Peter because he's the one that signed me when I was in Indy 4 years ago. And he called me, and once he called me and told me what was going on, he wanted me to be a part of it. It was a no-brainer. I just said, let's get the deal done,
Absolutely. And since that time, the fans seem to have been incredibly welcoming of you so far. And I've got to ask, as you look at the upcoming season, you're still a couple of weeks away from that opener on April 6th against Chattanooga. What lessons specifically from your 4 seasons at Indy 11 do you plan to bring to Forward Madison? What can fans expect from you based off of that large chunk of time that you spent there?
Man, I'm not a guy that talk too much about my playing. I go out there and just give them my best and all, and just work hard for the fans and the club and the team, my teammates, and work hard so we can go out there and get the 3 points every single game. And, I'm trying to bring a little experience that I had from in Indy towards this team. We have a couple of experienced guys like Connor and Brian and Parlo as myself and JC. We kind of bring that experience to Madison and help the younger guys in the team to help build something special that's coming to the city.
And I think fans have already seen that during preseason with the amount of excitement that has been building around the club. I've got to ask you as well, Don, you're a multi-positional player. We've seen that throughout your career, but so far in preseason, where has Coach Shore been working you out? Are you going to be spending more times on the wing? Are you going to be playing up top? Where can we expect to see you lining up this season?
It's more in the attacking, since right, left, anywhere around there, but if there's a position open where someone is injured, I'm willing to fill in that position, as you can say. I played multiple positions throughout my career, so, but mostly it's just right wing, left wing, anywhere in the attacking half.
If it came to it, would you step in to play goalie for a match if you had to?
For sure, without a doubt.
We've seen that happen before, yep.
I tell the coach, give me the gloves, I'm ready to go.
There you go, and I think a lot of coaches respect that mentality also.
Yeah.
So when you look at this club right now and you see the players around you showing up to training every day, there's 4 teams that make the playoffs at the end of this journey, Don. Do you feel, based on what you've seen so far, on a very early glance, I know it's only been a couple of weeks, does Forward Madison have one of those 4 spots when the season ends and you go to the playoffs?
Yes, we definitely do. We definitely have good quality players. You know, as you say, you know, it's kind of early to say what's going to happen because we haven't seen the other teams play. But I'm pretty confident in my team and the players that we have. You know, preseason's been, it's a long preseason, but it's getting there. The team is getting there. The chemistry of the team is getting there. You know, we just got to take it a step at a time, one game at a time, training session at a time. You know, just the small details to get where we need to be. And that's going to be a key factor coming up to the playoffs.
Absolutely. Speaking about training, what is the part of your game that you still continue to work on? A lot of players, you hear them, I'm still trying to get my touches in, or I'm still working on my shot. What is Don working on every day when he steps into practice?
Everything, because as you can tell, I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. I have to be on point with everything. Moving, gym, stretches, getting my touches in. Every little thing that I can sharpen up my tools. Whether it's touches, crossing, passing, little runs here and there. Because I'm trying to be in the best shape as I can be. The age factor coming in play pretty soon. Especially playing on turf. It's kind of hard on the body. So you just gotta keep the body right, eat right. Have good sleep.
When you talk about the excitement building around the team, there's a lot of players that Forward Madison has brought in when there's still more that fans haven't even been made aware of yet that have been not officially announced. Who are some of the players in your mind, outside from watching yourself, do fans need to keep a close eye on this season? Is it somebody up top? Is it one of the goalkeepers? Who are we looking at this season for those extra special moments throughout the season?
I wouldn't say we have a one special guy, because as of now, everyone is working hard. Everyone is going to have, everyone on the team is going to have a special moment that we're going to need one person to step up big in each game. So I can't pinpoint out one person, because it's like without 11 players, it won't be a team. So I can't say there's only one specific player. I just want the fans to be aware of all the players, because at any moment somebody can step up big, and on that day he might be the guy. The next
Absolutely.
day, the next week, the next guy might be the guy. So I'd say it's a collective team effort. So I can't pinpoint one guy. Everyone on the team. Because there's going to be times where we're going to have to rely on the goalie, to save us. The defenders, the midfielders. That's that one last tackle that we might need in the game. We have 1-0. So I would just say the whole team, even the coach himself, by making a big substitution, can also help be a big impact on the game.
Is there a specific venue that you're looking forward to playing in for any of the away teams, or just a specific club that you're just dying to get on the field to challenge?
Nah, not really. I'm not sure. To be honest with you. I never played in the Orlando City Stadium, so I'm not sure if the Orlando City B is going to play in the stadium, but I hope they do. I want to play in that stadium. I never played in that stadium before.
It does look beautiful from all the renderings and pictures that we've seen.
Yeah. From what I see, yeah.
In your opinion, too, when you look at the renovations that are being done to Breeze Stevens Field, what type of atmosphere are you hoping that when fans walk into that stadium, when the game is going on, the flock is cheering, what type of energy are you hoping fans take away from when they walk in the stadium?
I want them to feel the same energy the players feel. It's going to be a close atmosphere, so they can be in the game. There's going to be a lot of emotion. Tell the fans to be ready for. It's going to be a very emotional games. So it's going to be a good experience for the fans. To see what it's like to be close to the players and be in the action.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that, from what we've heard from what the Flock is trying to do and just from other supporters groups, they want Breeze Stevens Field to feel like this incredible arena that absolutely will just shake the rafters of it and build that extra energy that we've heard other teams talk about, that that 12th man, that it feels like there's a whole other player on the field because of the atmosphere that the fans bring to the match.
Yes, definitely. We're going to need the Flockers to come out heavy in each home game. There's time we're gonna need them to help, to build momentum and energy of the team. The team goes off. If we're down, that, as you say, the 12th man can give us that extra burst of energy by keeping us going. The fans is definitely going to play a big factor in the season.
Last question for you, Don, before we let you go. What is, in your opinion, something that you want the fans to know about you and how you play the game? If no one has any idea who Don Smart is and they see you on the field for the first time on April 27th on that home opener, what are they going to expect to see out of you when you step on the field?
Energy, excitement, and 120%. Going to give them my all. It's a lot of energy,
And I think that's exactly what any fan would want of their players. Don, I'm excited.
Excitement.
Absolutely.
I'm excited too. I can't wait to the first home game to see all the fans and all the people who show up at the game and give us the support that we need in the city.
Exactly right. April 27th against Greenville Triumph FC, 7 p.m. at Breeze Stevens Field. He's number 7, Don Smart. Thank you for joining us on the show, Don. I'm thrilled for you to be a part of Forward Madison and can't wait to see you myself in person in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. There goes Don Smart from Forward Madison. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more in store for you here on Let Me Be Forward. Forward Madison saw their preseason success continue with a 7-1 victory over UW Parkside just a few nights ago. This was a game for Forward Madison that it really felt like they were just banging on all cylinders because you see 5 different players get on the score sheet for this match, and it really excites Forward Madison fans because this is a true showing of what it can be when the team is clicking. But I also want you to pump your brakes for a second and realize that although UW Parkside, yes, they're a good team, they're a good quality college program, this should be an expected victory. You're coming off of a 4-1 defeat to Creighton a couple of weeks ago, and now you go and beat UW Parkside 7-1. This is preseason, you're still working on a lot of the kinks, but at the same time, it is encouraging because it showcases that not just one player is capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. It's still, regardless of the players that are on the field, doesn't matter if it's the starting 11 that the season opens with or if it's a bunch of substitutes and trial guys and loanees. It all comes down to the fact of when the ball is at your feet, what are you capable of doing with it? Can you complete the passes? Can you take the shots? Can you put the ball in the back of the net? If you're the defense, can you mark your man? Can you step in? Can you steal the ball? If you're the goalkeeper, are you capable of putting up big-time saves when it calls for it? Now, am I surprised that Parkside scored a goal in this? No, not really, because it's still preseason. This is going to happen, and it's going to happen continuously as we continue to build up towards the remainder of the preseason into the regular season. There's one more game left in preseason, and that is a March 30th matchup against Marquette University in the Marquette Dome. It's going to be considered a friendly. It's the last announced tune-up as of right now for Forward Madison before their April 6th away match at Chattanooga. Marquette is a quality men's soccer program. They've been a quality men's program for many, many years. This is going to be probably the last good test as far as what this team is capable of doing. Do I feel like they should have maybe played a little bit tougher opponent before going to then take on the sea of talent and just dangerous overall camaraderie that's going to come out of Chattanooga? Yeah, I really do feel like Marquette is not probably the finest tune-up that you could come up with, but it's March, and you're based out of Madison, Wisconsin. There's not too many teams that you're going to be able to match up with right now and say, hey, let's go out and play a friendly because we need to get a tune-up before our final game. You're not going to go play another USL Championship team. You're not going to go play an MLS team, even an MLSB team right now, because some of those teams are obviously a part of the USL Championship and US League One. But this is going to be a very intriguing matchup for me because if Marquette gets on the score sheet even twice, I think there needs to be some addressed concerns on the defensive side. But this is a roster, though, that still is boasting a lot of great players, and we don't even know all of the players yet for this upcoming season. You look at players like Brian Silvestri, who's marketing the goalkeeping spot at a very high level. You know, Ryan Coulter put in a great performance. He was on Creighton for that friendly that he only allowed one goal in that 4-1 victory for Creighton over Forward Madison. There's only 4 listed defenders on this roster right now. You're not going to consistently be a good team with only 4 defenders, so there's still more coming down the pipeline for Forward Madison. Connor Tobin and Carl and Christian Diaz and Hiro Toyama are all going to be exceptional players for Forward Madison this season. There's no question about that, but until we continue to get more consistent players locked in at all these positions, yeah, of course, you're going to look at it on paper and say, well, this is a very heavy midfield and very heavy forward team. That's fantastic. You need that because you need to be able to compete. Of course, Brian Bemmett, Zaire Bradley, Paulo Jr., J.C. Banks. It doesn't matter where you look on this team, you've got incredibly talented players. But the fact of the matter is, and I thought this was fascinating in my conversation with Don Smart, he said there is not one specific player on this team that he would consider the main focal point or the main star of the team. And as much as I agree with him, I also feel the fact that this could be a potential downfall because you need to be able to have those 2 or 3 players that can come on the field every match and be the lifeblood of the roster. I understand all 11 guys show up and they need to play, and you've got your 3 subs and everything, of course, in that capacity, but you need to be able to have those 2 or 3 players that when they have the ball at their feet, that the defense goes, oh crap, how are we supposed to stop this guy? And maybe one of those players might be a defender, one of those players might be the goalkeeper, but who is going to be that main focus point on the offensive side this season? My money's on a couple of different players. I think it really kind of depends on the consistent outside wing play that we see from Bartley. I think that Brian Bemmett showed a good fact that he can come off the bench and score a goal. But the good part about it, though, is the fact that we still have some time. When April 27th rolls around and the home opener is staring you in the face, in my opinion, that's really kind of the point that we need to be able to identify who those star players are going to be and who you can rely on. You're going to have 4 games before you get to April 27th. You've got an April 6th game at Chattanooga. April 13th, you go to at North Texas SC. You come home for a friendly on the 16th against UW Madison. April 19th, you head down to Orlando to play Orlando City B. So that's 4 matches to really refine and hone your craft, hone the roster, figure out who are going to be your top guys. And then when it comes to April 27th with the Greenville Triumph come walk through the door, you can say, here are our players. Here's the roster that we've assembled so that way we can be a dominant force this entire season. And I could be totally off my rocker, and I hope that you find time to go off to Twitter and you let me know where you fall in this debate. At Baxter Colburn, at Let Me Be Forward, at Maddie Come. If you want to tweet at Maddie, you can certainly do so. She's very involved in our social media as well. Last thing I want to do before we get out of here this week, traditionally, if there are questions from fans, this would be a good time to be able to chime in and respond to those. Here is something that I want to get information on from you. I asked the poll question on our Twitter page this week. I said, Forward Madison FC fans, what's your prediction for this coming season? Seems pretty straightforward. The answers were pretty, interesting. I said bottom 3, mid-table, or top 3. There were 46 people that voted, and an overwhelming support, 67% to be exact, said top 3. That means this team is a playoff team. That means this team is potentially winning a semifinal game if you're a top 3 team. That's a lot of pressure. That's something that I feel a lot of people are going to need to think about very clearly and very carefully. Is Forward Madison FC a top 4, a top 3, a top 2 team? As you heard from Peter Wilt, he thinks that there's going to be at least 2 or 3 other teams that are going to cause some issues. But then you heard from Don Smart. He said that Forward Madison will be one of the 4 playoff teams. I kind of agree with him, honestly. But I don't know if top 3 is the right spot for them. I think they're going to be either the 4th or 5th best team this season, depending on how quickly they are able to find those key players and who is going to step up to be that consistent source of goals. Because if we're still trying to have this conversation in the middle of July or early August, this is not going to work in the favor of Forward Madison. I get it. There's not a lot of teams in this league, so you can get away with maybe not being good for part of the season and then kind of putting it all together towards the end. However, you can't just sit on your hands for this. You need to be able to move, and you need to be able to put goals in the back of the net as quickly as possible. As we close out this episode of Let Me Be Forward, I want to take a minute to thank Peter Wilt and Don Smart for joining me on the program. This is going to be a lot of fun this season, folks. I really hope that you enjoy what we have coming for you. And I know this first episode didn't give you everything that we're going to be doing because we're still digging through the preseason. We're still in preseason form here on the show as well. I hope that you know that every single week I am going to spend time digging deep into this club, digging deep into what is taking place around the league. I'm going to be coming to you with my thoughts, with my opinions, and I want to hear from you. Don't be surprised if I'm a little too forward at times with my thoughts, because this show is the place to do it. This is the community that we are building. You can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all at Let Me Be Forward. I'm Baxter Colburn for Maddie Cum, Peter Wilt, Don Smart, and all of us here at Let Me Be Forward. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thanks for listening.